Do you like to rage against the machine? Do you like to rage, on the gaming day? I'm trying to think of other rage references, but I'm completely blanking and I'm sorry. There's a lot of rage in this book, and a suspicious lack of dragons. Hi, I'm Pete, and this is Ponderings of Pete, where I talk about books, I talk about fantasy, I talk about sci-fi, I talk about a little of contemporary, I don't know if they call it that, classical stuff. I talk about books mainly. As you may have guessed from the title or the general amount of keywords that I said in the hook, I read Evan Winter's Rage of Dragons. And I heard a lot about this book from the Shelf Space Discord. It was the buddy read for the Shelf Space Discord like sometime back in 2020 before I joined. And it divided the Discord. Some people loved it, some people hated it. So eventually I had to pop it into my TBR because I wanted to see what the buzz was about. So let's talk about it. This is going to be a non-spoiler review. So if you haven't read it, you're good to go the entire review. I'm going to tell you what I thought of it and try to get you to read it. Overall, I really did like this book. I was told that if I liked Red Rising, I would like Rage of Dragons and Abby Salter. That indeed was an accurate statement. This book has quite a bit of action in it, I would say. If you really break it down, there's definitely higher action points and lower action points, but it has a fair bit of action and paces itself very quickly, in my opinion. Let's talk about the world building, because I really like the world building first of all. So this is very Afrocentric in its world building. And I say that because, there's a lot of names that are African based, and that's unfamiliar for me. So there were definitely parts where I was very overwhelmed with the plethora of, more African based names. And I think he did a good job of overwhelming you and then giving you time to breathe, if that makes any sense. So he would overwhelm you with introducing a bunch of stuff. Like, for instance, in the beginning, you're introduced to all these names, you're introduced to all these terms that some of which are capitalized in English. So it's kind of like, is that a name or is that a term? What is that? And then he gives you some time to breathe with those names and terms and actually get to know some of the characters that were in there, and then he'll have another whole avalanche after you've had a little bit of time to breathe and understand what's going on. So it's very waterfall, breathe, waterfall, breathe, waterfall, breathe, because the character does move around a bit in the book. I really like the world that he built, and through Tao, our main character's eyes, it is very interesting to see because it's definitely built on this the best term for it is system of oppression. At least that's what the kids say nowadays. Essentially, the society that this story takes place in, you have two types of people. You have nobles and you have lessers. And that's kind of broken down. There's petty nobles and lesser nobles and greater nobles and stuff like that. And nobles are considered far and above lessers, obviously, both physically, mentally, all that jazz. And they are afforded more opportunities, better opportunities. They are, superior in every sense of the term. And a lesser can't become a noble because bloodlines are important. And Tao, our main character, is a lesser. When you meet Tao at the beginning of the book, he is, he's friends with a noble, a petty noble. And they train together. And through Tao's eyes, throughout the book, but starting with this, his friendship, you start to see the frustration and the anger that's built up against this system, which I think Evan Winter did an excellent job of making me, the reader, really despise this system as a thing. The system in and of itself was a characterization, which was really almost, I don't know, it was refreshing to see that. Tao. One of the things that I've heard about this book before I read it was that Tao was a frustrating person. He was frustrating to read because a lot of people didn't agree with his choices. And there's an inciting event that creates all this rage within him. Besides the stuff, him not like being frustrated and angry at the system. That's part of it. After that inciting incident, Tao is going after a goal. And the thing that is frustrating sometimes in this book is Tao has a plan, but he will divert from the plan for no reason. And I really can't say more than that. And it's mainly, it's kind of understandable because rage, but it is kind of frustrating when he's like, I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and I'm going to reach this goal. And then something along the lines of Y comes along where he could accomplish Y, but he's all the way at Q. He's like, oh, I'm going to get Y. It's frustrating to a sense, but it's understandable that he is not a rational person. And I think people's frustration with him definitely stems from the fact that they expect this disconnect between reader and protagonist of rationality disconnect, where the reader expects the decisions of the protagonist to reflect their own thought process, which is oftentimes a lot more removed and rational than a real life person would be making those decisions. So it's kind of, I guess, the goal of the writer, depending on the book, depending on the viewpoint, all that jazz, to put the reader in the shoes of the protagonist and make them understand their decision making. I can't say that the entirety of the audience felt as much rage that Tao did. And Tao had a lot of rage, hence part of the title. The other part of the title, are there dragons? There are dragons in this book. So if you're going to read this book, don't expect lots and lots of dragons. I have a feeling that there'll be more dragons in future books. In fact, I'm pretty sure I've heard that Fires of Vengeance, the second book, has more dragons. But I wouldn't go into this book expecting lots of dragons. One more thing on Tao. Tao's character is also the epitome of what doesn't kill you makes you stronger. He constantly is trying, he's a little bit of an anime character that's trying to constantly get stronger for certain reasons. But if you like that flavor of that anime style character that's constantly trying to get stronger, go for this book. The last thing I want to talk about is their fight scenes, the action sequences. And Winter has an interesting writing style. I felt like a lot of the times with his action sequences, he did this once or twice. He would essentially you'd get the lead up to the action sequence and that calm before the storm moment. And then you'd have a chapter break and then you'd be in the middle of the battle. And he would recant what had happened up to the battle. And then you continue on from there, which is an interesting style of writing. I actually did like that. I think he definitely vividly describes the fighting. There's a lot of, not hand-to-hand combat, but there's a lot of melee combat with swords and spears and whatnot. I think he does paint the pictures well there. So I think he did do a good job of describing his action sequences from the melee combat to the tactical side of things. I think sometimes you can have authors that, are really good at being punchy, but are bad at describing where the characters are and how that's relevant to the rest of the battle around them. So I think Evan Winter definitely strikes a balance there. So overall, I was about to start saying what I would rate it, and then I realized I didn't have a rating for it because I don't rate things like this. I really liked this book. I thought it was, it was emotionally stirring because of the rage. I liked the draconic elements in it, but, some people think there's less, but I don't think hey, there's dragons in it and there's going to be more dragons. You don't have to have dragons in it 24/7. It just doesn't have to be Aragon or any other dragon rider type of thing. Definitely don't expect constant dragons. Tao is frustrating. Thanks so much for watching this review. If you liked this review, give it a thumbs up. If you didn't like this review, tell me why. And you can give me a thumbs down if you really want to. If you really feel led to give me a thumbs down, it's fine. It's not going to break my heart. What did you think about this book if you've read it? If you haven't read it, does this review make you excited? If you are so inclined and you want to purchase Rage of Dragons after this review, I have a link down below in my description. It's an affiliate link. I earn a small 10% commission, I think, off of it. But it is from bookshop.org, which is a great alternative to Amazon because Amazon don't. just that's a whole nother topic. Thank you so much. And, sleep well eventually, at some point, soon. Sleep well. Sleep is important. I don't know why I sign off like that, but I need to figure out how to do this.